Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Going to call our meeting to order. We're reconvening to open session. There was nothing to report out from closed session. I want to welcome you to today's meeting of the Hillsburg Unified School District Board of Trustees. The public can ask questions relevant to agenda items at the time those items are under consideration. Any person may also address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board cannot consider issues or take action on requests during this comment period. We would appreciate it if you would identify yourself with your name when addressing the board. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. If you have a comment, please send a message using the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Please identify yourself and the agenda item on your specific topic in that chat comment. You will be called to speak in the order it was received or when the agenda item is discussed.
Y también tengo que decir, si necesitan interpretación al español, no más necesitan seleccionar el globo al fondo de la pantalla donde dice interpretation y luego español y van a poder escuchar todo en español.
Okay, great. Gracias a todos. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There are not.
Okay. Chris, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. Do we have a flag somewhere?
I have one.
I can turn there's a flag up in the corner if you can see it. There you go.
Great.
All right, please stand. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the republic,
to the
and
republic,
the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
But I have that backwards. I think it goes this way. Sorry.
feels really good to do that today, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
We are on item 8, award special recognition, 8.1. Kristen Robinson and Varsi Hansen, HUSD District Nurses.
yeah, so it is my pleasure to introduce Diane Conger, who works with our two amazing nurses, who's going to talk a little bit about them and I mean, we couldn't be in better hands. Let me put it that way. I've been super impressed with the work they've done in this pandemic. Liked them before, but I like them a whole lot more now because they give us very good guidance. So anyway, Diane, you want to introduce them?
With pleasure. And I was going to say, if you like them, I love them. So first of all, Varsi, why don't you wave? So, and then Kristen, where are you, Kristen? Oh, there she is. Hi, Kristen. So just so you know who we're talking about. So those are our two hardworking district nurses. And I wanted to say before this all began, they were sort of in the background. And, they don't get a lot of love unless you really need them. They don't get a lot of love. Like they kind of float. They don't belong anywhere. And boy, these two, they have just rolled with every punch that we have given them. So, they did so many things before, but now their job has completely changed. As you can imagine, when this pandemic hit, they pivoted quickly, from being school-based nurses to technical advisors, to clinicians, to interpreters, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't understand the language that medical professionals speak. I went to school to be an educator, not a health professional. And so to have those two at our ready, like at any moment, I just couldn't be happier. So when Chris said that we're in really good hands, I want to brag about them a bit because they won't brag about themselves. Both of them, they're so much more than a school nurse. They're who SCO goes to ask questions of. Before SCO finally appointed somebody, they asked questions of Varsi and Kristen because we were so ahead of the game. They both have masters. They both are registered nurses. Varsi has a lot of experience in occupational health, and she's also, I had to look it up, but she's also a family nurse practitioner. Kristen has taught at the university level, and she's also, and I really got scared when I learned this, she's a public health nurse. I said, you better not go to the county. So I could go on and on and on about how much I'm like almost tearing up. I could go on and on about how much I rely on them, but I'd like them to say a few words about the work that they're doing, and I'll stop talking. Thank you.
I guess I'll go first. It's been a pleasure to work with the district and to sort of use my skills, my past work experience in occupational health, to sort of pivot from helping students to helping staff, and to use my knowledge in that way. And it's been a pleasure. And we're also in this together. So it's been really cool to see how the team works and how we've all pivoted to this new world. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. I can echo everything that Varsi has been saying. You know, last year was my first year working as a school nurse, and it was very interesting because we had the wildfires and then we had a pandemic. And, you know, I've been able to take some of my experience from working in the hospital and bring it to our planning for school and when things are going to have to change when we're back in the classroom. So I'm very thankful that I have that background that I can share with the community. I live in the community, and it's just really important for me to get the kids being in a place that they're safe, and just supporting the district and supporting the teachers and the staff and the community. So thank you.
So we're gonna close. They didn't say enough about all the things they do, but I'm gonna close this out so we can move on. But they're gonna stay on, and as we get to the health and safety plan, which is coming up in a few agenda items, they'll also be here to answer some questions about that since they basically created it.
Yeah, I wanted to add that there's nothing that has happened in this pandemic that's health related in terms of decision making or what we've published that they haven't touched and vetted and approved or actually came up with most of the time. So we feel extremely privileged, you know, to have the two of them with their combination of experience. And you know, I talk to other superintendents. I don't feel like they get the same amount of reliable guidance from public health or from their nurses that we do. And so I just feel extremely privileged to have them. And I know Diane basically talks to them 24/7. So I know they've become good friends, and it's just a privilege to have such a good team in such a terrible, stressful situation for everybody. So thank you, Varsi. Thank you, Kristen, for all the work you do on behalf of our students and staff. It is much appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you're feeling the love. All right. Moving on to 9.1, College and Career Center presented by Shelley Anderson.
So I'm going to kick us off. This is Erin Fender, your Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Hey, Erin.
Hi, everybody. Bill and I are gonna speak a little bit and then turn it over to Shelley. She's thankfully provided us some slides. So just like Varsi and Kristen, you know, there's so much work that goes into supporting and running a robust school district. And, you know, folks kind of know what teachers do, but there's all these other things. And many of you are familiar with Shelley because she generally brings us some students during internship time and introduces the students and helps us better understand our internship program. But many people don't understand all the other things that Ms. Anderson does for the district and for our high school students. So she runs our College and Career Center. She's in there every time I go in. You're in there even now in pandemic times. I see you talking to kids online. So multiple roles. She's our work-based learning coordinator. And like I said, most of you know the internship program, but she's going to share with us the multi-dimensions to get kids ready to do an internship. It takes years. That doesn't just happen where our kids go out for 6 full days and have such great success out there in the community in the work-based learning environment. She is also our scholarship coordinator. So those of you who have attended scholarship night and you see the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are passed out, she's the one who helps kids get that money and write those applications, know what they're eligible for and finds really cool different opportunities, many different types of scholarships, big and small, and encourages kids and helps them do all those applications. She also is our California Scholarship Federation Club advisor. So CSF, which is an honor. So she makes sure that kids get that honor when they're due and kind of guides them through that process. And lastly, but not least, is also the ASB, or the Associated Student Body Advisor. So you can see she's busy, right? And all of this is going on while we're distance learning. So none of this has gone away. Our kids continue to be supported. We have a very robust college application situation that just kind of is cooling off a little. Now scholarships start to come up, work-based learning 24/7. So she is a busy gal. I'm so excited to celebrate her and the work that she does. Really seen as a leader and a mentor in our community, broadly, not just in Healdsburg, but in Sonoma County. Again, Chris gets to talk to other soups. I get to talk to other CNI directors and folks that do this work, principals. And I'm always like, oh yeah, I know, I got somebody that can show you how to do that. Oh, we already have a form for that. We already have a process for that. Let me just ring you up and hook you up with Shelly Anderson. She'll show you what to do. So she helps not only our kids in our community, but she's really seen as the lead and kind of the cutting edge for this work in the county. So thank you. Bill, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to you. You work most closely with Ms. Anderson day to day.
Well, Erin, thank you. And you covered the complexities and the breadth of what Shelley does very well. I'm just going to tell a quick story. As many of you know, in the before times, I love giving tours of our school because there's so much to show off. And we have incredible CTE programs in our STEM building and our new athletic facilities and our friendly students. And I would always kind of end the tours in the main office in the counseling room, and I would describe what was going on in the College and Career Center. And often the visitor would ask me one simple question, which was, how do you staff that? And the answer was always, we just staff it with Shelley, because she's so competent. She can take care of everything that's coming out of this office. And a person of lesser talent would need much more assistance than Shelley asked for. And we are forever grateful for her contribution and her commitment to our kids in our schools. So it's my pleasure to introduce Shelley, who will describe what she does very thoroughly. Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, all these nice words. I feel like my mom should be here hearing this. Sorry if you hear dogs. Karen, can we bring up the slideshow? So I actually prepared this slideshow in pre-COVID times, just so you know, a little disclaimer there. We are trying to do everything that we've always done, but as you know, there are challenges to that. I was asked to present to the Kiwanis Club about what's going on at the high school. A lot of people, as I'm out in the community, I just finished my year as president of the chamber board. I go to a lot of new member receptions and chamber mixers, and also just meet with Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, AAUW. I'd like to be the one to reach out to the community, and everybody wants to know what's going on at the high school and how they can help, which is wonderful. So I try to strive to be the liaison between the community, and especially the business community, and the retired people who are joining all these service clubs who want to help, and the high school, and finding them all opportunities to be able to step in and help us out when we need it, get panelists when we need it. Sometimes bringing an adult in the room to watch their presentations really makes them step it up a level. So it's nice to find people to do that. So I prepared this presentation, and I just thought it'd be nice little recap of everything that is going on at the high school pre-COVID, and hopefully very soon again. So my first slide is my beautiful daughter. Oh, whoa, go back, Karen. That's my first slide. That's my daughter. She's at Cal Poly. She had a great education at Healdsburg High School that very much prepared her for Cal Poly. So I just wanted to say that she's doing well, and it's because of all the support and academics that she got at Healdsburg High School that she's doing very well at Cal Poly.
All right,
Okay,
go
next
Mustangs.
slide. Proud mom moment there. So we start, pardon me? Sorry, did somebody
I
say
said
something?
go
No.
Mustangs, but that's all right.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's a Mustang for sure. So yeah, work-based learning, as Erin touched on, is not just the 6 days in junior year that they do an internship. It is a whole work-based learning continuum for all 4 years of high school. And we really put a lot of thought and action into the work-based learning continuum at Hillsburg High School. So it all starts freshman year with just some career awareness. Actually, it starts at the junior high. I can't tell you how many kids have said, I want to be this job because at the junior high, we had career day and we had these professionals come in and present about it. And it really sounded interesting to me. And I've been interested ever since then. So it really does start with career day that they do at the junior high. For some kids, that sparks an interest. Then freshman year here, we introduce them to Naviance, our college and career software that we use with them. They get to do an informational interview with someone that's doing a career they're interested in. We introduce them then at that point to writing business letters and thank you letters, do a little slideshow about job readiness, talk about hard skills versus soft skills, because that's new language they've never heard. They do a resume lesson, they hire a lifeguard, and really it lets them look at a resume and say, okay, this is why we hired this person, so what do I want my resume to look at? And of course, a freshman resume doesn't have a whole lot on it, but it gets them started thinking about the things they've done for the first 14 years of their life, gets it out of their head, onto a document, and then they can keep adding to it for all 4 years. Because as I work with seniors on their scholarship applications, they don't remember what they did freshman year. That was a long time ago, right? So starting a working document freshman year that they can continue to add to each year really is helpful in that senior year when they're trying to remember community service that they did. What kind of awards did they get in FFA freshman year, and just all the different things they've been doing. So that's nice to start that freshman year and be able to really build on it. So these are things that we've done in freshman seminar. I think going forward, we are embedding them into freshman English class, and especially the writing ones. Mr. Linker is very excited about working into his freshman English classes. Okay, next slide is talking about sophomore year. So I go into sophomore English at the end of the year and we update their resumes with everything they've done in the last year. And if they don't have anything to put, I say, what the heck are you doing? It's been a year. You got to do stuff, right? Start working on your community service hours. Get a summer job. What are your CTE classes you're taking, and what are you learning in those classes that could help you get a job? Are you taking digital film or culinary or CASA? And how are you learning things in there that we can put on your resume that are going to be skills that might help you get a job? So we touch on resumes again, get them updated. We create a mock cover letter to their mentor, kind of preparing them for junior year. We do a little bit more exploration in Naviance. They do a strengths explorer. And then as part of their English final, they have to give a 3 to 5 minute presentation on the career that they are interested in. And they have to dress up. It's kind of like the junior presentation night, but half the size, half the number of slides. But they're expected to dress up and give a professional presentation. And I get to watch all of them. And it kind of gives me an insight as to what I can expect next year for my juniors. So then the next slide is about junior year. And this, of course, is the big bulk of it. So having junior seminar has been fantastic because all of this can be embedded into that curriculum and it's seamless. So we do a deeper dive into Naviance. They have to finally narrow down their top 3 career choices. They have to write me a cover letter with their top 3 career choices and why. They have to, again, update their resumes and share them with me. And then I go through them during our interview and give them tips on how to make their resume really nice and professional. We talk about fonts and date order and just all the different things that can be on there. And I interview each one of them. In some years we have mock interviews with the community, which is nice. The more interview practice they get, the better. Senior year, some of these competitive scholarships actually have an interview for the scholarship deciding process by the committee, and the kids who are good at interviews often get more money. So I really want our kids to have that experience of interviewing as many times as possible to prepare them for that also. They do a 6-day internship. They don't go to school, they go to their business for 6 days. This year, we're probably gonna have a hybrid of certain students will be doing in-person internships and certain people will be doing online internships. So this year is going to be a hybrid model. After that, they do a follow-up thank you letter to their mentor and prepare a professional presentation to a panel of the business and community leaders, teachers, and staff, which I'm hoping will happen this year. We are going to have the students prepare their presentations and give their presentations to their class, their junior class that they're in, and then we're going to put it on a shelf and wait. And we're hoping maybe by the end of May, mid-May, that enough people have been vaccinated and would feel comfortable. And if the school is open, obviously, if we could have a presentation night and maybe just have 2 to 3 panelists per room, that's fingers crossed. So we're going to keep that, instead of doing a Zoom presentation night, we're hoping that by the end of the year, we could even do it in June. Who knows? Let's just see how that goes. But that's our hope for this year. And then senior year, they do a civic action project in their senior civics class, and they do a business plan in their economics class. So by the end of their high school career at Hillsburg High School, we hope they've got a resume, they've got their transcript printed out, they've got letters of recommendation that they've gotten for college and scholarship applications. They've been working, they've touched on a 10-year plan throughout the years. They know what a cover letter is, they know what a thank you letter is, they've got their business plan idea that some of them go forward with, and they have a civic action plan. That is the portfolio that really we hope every Hillsburg High School graduate has. Okay, so next slide. We're going to talk about the internship program. I know a lot of you have heard about it before, but I know we have a couple of new board members. Welcome. Crystal, I think you probably did an internship when you were at Hillsburg High School because you weren't there too long ago. So it's just, the overview is, it's different than any other high school does. We actually, require it as a graduation requirement for all of our juniors. So they know this is something they're going to do. They get excited about it. The parents are excited. The community is excited about it. And it's Thursday and Friday for 3 weeks. All of our juniors go to their internship and they don't go to school. Go ahead, Karen, to the next one. So the next thing a lot of people are interested in the community is what we do for community service hours. There are some local nonprofits that really depend on our students for helping them out, like the Boys and Girls Club, Little League. There are a lot of opportunities for them to do these community service hours. Obviously, pre-COVID, there have not been very many opportunities at this point in the last 10 months for them to do community service. But as soon as we're all vaccinated and ready to go, this will definitely be something that the high school students, most of them enjoy. We talk about this when they do their resumes and what kinds of things they're interested in. I even talk about it when they're doing their internship interview. If you're interested in being a veterinarian, call up Sonoma County Humane Society and see if you can volunteer. They have a vet clinic there. Maybe you can get some volunteer hours, or maybe after your internship, you can continue to do more volunteer work. So putting an emphasis on community service as a graduation requirement, I think, is really important. And it's something we hope to do more in the future. And I gave this presentation to Kiwanis, so of course I put their logo right at the top. They were the ones that really wanted to hear about it. But here are some of the places that our students have done community service work in the past. And we really try to keep it as Healdsburg focused as possible. So they're really giving back to the community that they are in. But obviously, if they get ideas to do community service in other communities, that's fine too. They just have to kind of run it by their counselor or me or Mr. Halliday so that we can approve it, that it's a nonprofit and they're not going to get paid and that sort of thing. Sometimes we get calls from people who say, oh, I need a couple of kids to mow my lawn this weekend. Can I give them community service hours to do it? I'm like, no, they're not your slave labor. And we have guidelines for this sort of stuff. So it's funny, those phone calls we get every once in a while. Okay, and so, and then switching gears to the college readiness that we do at the high school, this has really grown in the last few years too. These college tours that we've been able to take our freshmen and our sophomores and our juniors on have been really, really eye-opening for a lot of kids. Many of our students have never stepped foot on a college campus by senior year when they're supposed to be applying for colleges. And how do you know? I know my daughter walked onto the Cal Poly campus her freshman year when we were visiting my goddaughter there. And within like 5 minutes, she said, I want to go here. I can see myself here. I love it here. And sometimes that is all it takes, and that was freshman year. So thank goodness she knew she had to work her butt off all through high school in order to get in Cal Poly. So that kept her very, very motivated to do well. I just talked to my nephew, who is a junior at Hillsburg High School, and I said, what is your dream school? And he said, well, freshman year, when you guys took us to Sac State, I loved that campus and that was a really cool school. And I said, you're right, it is a really cool school and he wants to do business. So I think that'd be a good school for him. So taking these students on these tours, getting them out of Healdsburg, opening their world a little bit. We usually take them to a UC and a state school. We've taken them to some private school campuses. We get the tours and we just let them be exposed to some college campuses and see what the feel is, see what the vibe is. San Jose State is very different than Sacramento State. Even though they're both in big cities, San Jose has a very urban feel. We've done the tour at UC Berkeley and that was amazing, but boy, is that a different feel than other campuses. So UC Davis, much more open and rural. So it's very interesting to take them on these tours and see what they see. We also have a lot of college reps that come to our school and I schedule a lot of college visits. This year they were all virtual, but normally the College and Career Center is a very busy place. We have 2 to 3 college reps come a week during the fall, and we have military come once a month, and they're allowed to set up a table in the quad at lunch. So each of the 4 divisions of the armed services come once a month and talk to our students. Sometimes they bring a pull-up bar and all the boys get to go out there and show how cool they are on the pull-up bar. That's always a popular day. And then we have college and career fairs also. The Windsor High School has a really huge college fair. So we've taken buses of students there. Avid, we kind of combine with Avid and we take students to there so they can get a little bit bigger view of more colleges than the ones that come to visit us. Okay, sorry, Karen, now I'm ready. So 2019 was a great year for us. Here are a lot of the colleges that our students got accepted to. It was pretty much every CSU, every UC, private schools. They really applied far and wide and got accepted far and wide. Most of them stay on the West Coast and California, just, for financial reasons, but we do have some that want to fly as far away as possible. So we have some that are on the East Coast. For the class of 2020, we had a student get into Yale. She is at Yale right now, doing very, very well. So you see that one there. And not quite as many schools just because of everything going on. I think students didn't have a chance to apply to as many schools. And we weren't able to quiz them at the end of the year saying, hey, can you let us know, which schools you got into? Usually I'll go into their senior econ class at the end of the year and do a little survey with them, like an exit survey. And I didn't get to do that last year. So that's why this list looks a little bit smaller, but still amazing schools. And to see someone doing well at Yale and loving it is really exciting. So let's see. And then of course, scholarships, my favorite thing to do, to give students money. For the last 3 years, we have given out over $500,000 to about 48 Healdsburg High School seniors and alumni. Some of you may know we have 4 trusts set up, the McCord, the Barnes, the Bell, and the Van Ornum. And they are all renewable, all 4 years of college. So instead of just getting a big chunk right when you graduate and then kind of being on your own year 2, 3, and 4, these trusts are set up so that our students get support all 4 years. So I'm in contact with alumni, making sure they get their scholarship applications in, making sure they get recent letters of recommendation, making sure they get me the official transcripts, and making sure they get this money because these trusts were set up to get our kids money. In addition to these, we have probably at least 50 more scholarships that are just for Healdsburg High School. Our Rotary clubs are super generous, Active 2030 Club, AAUW, Rotary. And then of course there are many memorial scholarships set up for graduates and teachers of Healdsburg High School that have passed on and their families have set up scholarships in their memory. So we're just getting into scholarship season. I've produced the book electronically for the first time this year. Learning some new skills, aren't we all? So the electronic version has the applications embedded, links to the applications embedded throughout the entire book. So that was emailed to all the seniors December 1st. And we now have printed copies also in the front entrance of Healdsburg High School. So if they want a hard copy, they can get that also. I also set up a printing station. one thing that is a barrier for a lot of our students is they don't have a printer, or even if they have a printer, it is very expensive to have ink. So I've set up a printing station so that students can come to school, check in at the main office, get their temperature taken, and there's a table just right in the very front corner there where they can print out their applications, print out their letters of recommendation, get everything ready for their scholarship applications, and turn them in. And then whoever's working at the front there, wipes everything down in between students, and that will hopefully help reduce those barriers for any of our students that want to apply for scholarships but don't have printers at home. And I have printed out hard copies of all the scholarship applications also, and those are in a bin right inside the front door also. So they can pick up hard copies if they want to print them out, or if they want to fill them out manually also. So scholarship season will be going through April. And at the end of April, when we have scholarship award ceremony, I really hope again we can have it in person. We didn't get to last year. I doubt we'll be able to have it at the Raven by that point, but I'm hoping possibly outside, showing off our beautiful big new gym, maybe outside there on the field, spread out, 10 feet apart, and every family gets 4 chairs or something like that, and a podium, and just be able to really honor these kids who have been through 4 years of honestly hell. Their entire high school career has had so many horrible things happen. I would really love to see us be able to honor them in the best way possible, and be able to hand them those red envelopes with the scholarship award letters in them, and be able to really celebrate them. So that's all the stuff going on at the College and Career Center. Does anyone have any questions?
No question, Shelley, but oh my goodness, I'm just exhausted listening to everything you do. It's just amazing. And I'm in awe of everything you do, but more in awe of just how well you do it all. Our students are so blessed to have you in that position that you're in, and providing them with all of those really rich learning opportunities and all of that scaffold that you provide for them. I'm just really grateful and in awe of all of your amazing work. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you, Shelley. I have a question. College tours, are those offered to all students at the high school, or is that by grade level, or is that by maybe like special courses?
No, we offer it to all the freshmen. Freshman is the biggest buy-in. Let's say we usually get about 100 freshmen that want to go. And then sophomore year, we usually get between 70 and 80. By junior year, it's been more like 50, at that point, which is really when they should be going on these tours. They kind of, I think some of them think they already have their mind made up of where they want to go and where they want to apply. So that's the trend we've noticed. And it's not cheap to do these. We have to get charter buses, and they're really far away. But, like I said, just getting them off campus and getting them onto these college campuses has really been rewarding. And of course, we hope to bring them back once COVID is done. Crystal, where did you do your internship? I don't remember.
So at that point in my life, I was taking culinary classes at that point with Ms. B. And so I was really interested in the culinary arts field. And so I did my internship at Cousteau's. Yeah, so I did my internship at Cousteau's, but it was with the focus of business, which I would have preferred culinary, but it was still a really good opportunity because I realized this is not what I want to do. I want to go into something different, which was eye-opening for me. And I think it saved me a lot of time in college, especially at the JC, just trying to explore classes. Like I landed my first sociology class my very first semester, and I think I was very lucky to do so because I fell in love with sociology. So, but I mean, the internship opportunity was like an eye opener for me. Like culinary.
Well, that's great. I mean, yeah, that's just it. When you're done with the 6 days, some kids are like, "Wow, I do not want to do that." Great. What did you like about it? What didn't you like? Yeah.
Too, and it's just, I think for me, it was great to just get to know the community outside of school. Just getting to know the Hillsborough community in a business, and just with Will, like Will is amazing. He is a huge contributor to our community and to our school. So just being able to see that and acknowledge that, and thank him for everything that he does. So it was awesome.
Good.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shelley. I mean, I think the thing that I'm always impressed with, and Trustee Roma Flores kind of hit on this, is just what you do is systematic and it's systemic. It's not just some kids who wander in and say, I need help. you touch all of our kids. All of our kids are given and provided these opportunities and really almost like shoved in their face. Like, you need to do this. You're going on a college tour. You will do this. So it's not happenstance. It's every kid. And I just thank you. All the kids know you, the one-on-one support that you provide. I don't know what we would do without you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
miss the
thank you.
kids.
Yeah, thank you, Shelly. I think my junior year, it was more of a, a junior thing that you did. You did your internship and you kind of like moved on. And I have to say, I have a brother who's a junior this year, so he's really looking forward to his junior internship. But I've seen the work that he has had to do to end up where he's at right now. And I have to say, he had a change of heart. He didn't want to go to college after high school. He did not want to, he didn't want to take that route. So to see him now exploring career options and see him exploring, educational options, I am so thankful. So thankful.
Good, good. What's his name?
Eric.
Okay, got it. He's on my radar now. Tell him watch out.
He's probably hearing me next door. He's like, oh man.
That's great. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
I love my
Shelley.
job
Thank
and I love
you.
the kids. I
Excellent.
can't wait to see them again.
Thank you. Hats off to you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so moving on to 10, public comments on non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent action item or item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any comments, Karen?
You're muted, Karen.
We do not have any public comments at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 11.1, the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rose. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, public comments on agenda items. Members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any item of interest, providing it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time of the item is being discussed in accordance with board policy 9223. Individual speakers will be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Does anybody have any public comments on agenda items?
I don't have any comments listed in the chat as of right now.
And they can also submit them at that time when we get to that agenda item, and we can let them go then. So
Okay, great. Okay, so 12.1 student learning equity and school culture. A, Hillsburg Unified School District reopening plan update. This is a discussion item.
yeah, so Diane Conger, our Director of Student Support Services, who you heard from earlier, is going to start this. We're going to do this presentation together and just update you where things stand as it pertains to the ongoing discussion around school openings in Hillsburg and really the state.
Okay, so you want to go into the next slide? Great. So I just wanted to talk a little, this is so funny right now. This is almost hysterical because so much of what we used to inform our health and safety plan has now been usurped by Governor Newsom's guidance, which came out, which we got on the 15th, came out on the 14th, but we got it the 15th. So this was published, or the slide presentation was created, sorry, it's late, or right before that. So while we still look at those things now, it's been replaced by the new State Department of Public Health and their guidance. So go on. So we, in the reopening plan, we have to have a health and safety plan. And so I know we're not going to go over it page by page, but I just wanted to say it's a comprehensive document. It covers many things. I know on your blotter and probably inserted as a link, you have a link to this document. But I wanted to say that the nurses especially just put so much work into this, and it changes all the time. Like it's changing now. I've typed in it today as the nurses have typed in today. As we learn more, as the guidance changes, from 6 feet of distance now to a recommended 4 feet, from 7 cases per 100,000 to 25 cases. Things like this change and they have an impact on this document. So we want it to be ever evolving, but we wanted to bring forward the document to you to have, sort of a look at it. So you'll see in there, and we can really thank Kristen for her work on the sports conditioning. She has a real desire, as we all do, to get those kids back out onto the field and get some conditioning done. So she's put together some guidance, so we're all doing it the same way, and so we know that our students are safe and following the guidance that we've outlined here. What still remains to be done, but it's mostly finished at this point, is the COVID protection plan. We also will have something that I learned about again on Friday called a COVID checklist, and so that's essentially just making sure we've covered everything that they want us to cover. And then what's left to be done is each school site will have their own very comprehensive school site specific protection plan. But we're expecting a template on that, and we just don't have that template yet. So that's essentially the health and safety plan in a nutshell.
And it bears, just so everybody knows, it's in the board packet, so anybody could access that document and take a look at it if they're curious.
Yeah.
And Diane, the template we're waiting for comes from the state or the county?
Okay, that's a good question, Donna, because at first,
Sorry.
we are SCO's nightmare between the school nurses and myself. I'm like, where is that? Where is that document? So at first, they said that SCO was going to produce it. And then they said that the County Department of Health was going to produce it. And last we heard, now the state is going to produce it. I don't know, Donna. I might be producing it.
I was kind of
don't
just
know.
curious about if this was going to be something like statewide that every school is going to be seeing, or is this kind of, because everything's been so delegated, right?
The latest under Newsom's plan, and I'll talk more about it, is that there will be a statewide template. But we'll get to it. I don't want to get into it right now. So
Who even knows? Yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, we're ready to go. I'm just saying, when that template comes, the principals are ready to populate it and get these things. They've been doing the work. It's not about that. They just, rather than spin their wheels, I wanted them to put it in the right document. So we amended the student and family handbook that was offered to us by SCO. They did produce this, and they did produce this in English, and I'm not sure if we translated it. Daniela would have done that for us, or it might have actually come in English, but we did tweak it based on our own guidance, based on Varsi and Kristen looking at it and saying, well, the CDC says this, the County Department of Health says this, which is more restrictive, and putting a more restrictive lens on it where we had the authority to do so. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So it will outline just general health and safety related issues. It will review what the expectations are, what our practices will be around isolation, notification, things like that. But as soon as we know a little bit more about the date that we're reopening, we are planning, some comprehensive family sort of nights and trainings, and reviewing these in both English and Spanish multiple times, and just really making sure that our parents understand what reopening might look like and under what conditions. We're also investigating other counties around us and other districts that have successfully reopened, have done something like a family compact, where this is an agreement between us, much like a contract of sorts. This is our expectation. And, to be a part of the return, you essentially will follow these expectations. So those are my two big pieces. And while we still have the nurses here, if you have any questions about either one of those, if I can't answer it, they certainly can. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to let that soup take it away.
Yeah, before I jump in, I want to acknowledge Varsity and Kristen once again, and Diane. They have created these documents. I mean, I met with them a few times to give a little bit of input on questions, and a couple other staff, but basically it's Diane and our two wonderful nurses doing this. And so it's a huge lift. And like Diane said, it's probably something they revisit every day as the guidance changes. And so I just want to recognize the tremendous work that's gone into that and the details that they have to sift through. So as you know, or you may know, we are for reopening. One of the things that we're required to have is surveillance testing. And we were actually one of the early adopters in the county in getting it going for our employees. SCO had secured surveillance testing for employees through Curative. We decided to get it started early to work out the kinks. We administered one test at the district office, not one test, but one round of testing. And at that end of the week, learned that the FDA had called Curative into question, and then it sort of blew up in the news, as you saw, that the next few days, and we made a decision to, Sonoma County Public Health a few days later actually recommended not using Curative except for symptomatic people, which means not for surveillance testing. So we have decided to continue our search for a firm to conduct the testing for our employees, just so we can have reliable tests. That's always a good idea. So we are looking, we have some leads. Could be that Curative works things out with the FDA. I don't know, they tweak their tests, but as of right now, we're looking for other providers, and as soon as we can, we'll get it started. So vaccinations update. So that they are not yet confirmed. We do know that educators have been prioritized in what's called wave 1B or tier 1B of vaccinations. So you had your high risk folks and medical providers that were in 1A, and then 1B is next. And now anyone 65 or over has been added. The availability and timing of vaccines is tricky. So we, as of 2 days ago, when I last spoke with SCO regarding this, we didn't know for sure when we would have vaccines. And since then, actually, we did know that we were supposed to get the Moderna vaccine. And if you read the newspaper this morning or yesterday, you saw that there's a specific batch of Moderna that's been called into question and been shelved in many places so that they can investigate folks going into anaphylactic shock as a result of taking that vaccine. There was a group in San Diego where it happened. So Moderna has been temporarily sidelined. So there's a bit of uncertainty, though we are hopeful we're coming soon. One thing I do want to say is that, looking at it from the outside, the administration of vaccines in California seems to be very haphazard and chaotic. And it's exemplified in this. So educators, everybody wants to get kids back in school and get our educators vaccinated to help us be able to do that. The problem is there's no system for vaccination. So what's basically going to happen is the County Office of Education is going to coordinate schools pooling their resources together to be able to vaccinate themselves. And so we are working actively with SCO. In fact, Healdsburg High School has been chosen as the place in the first week of the SCO rollout of vaccines for vaccines to be administered for the North County. They are going to do an elementary staff first and then secondary staff round. So it'll come in waves because elementary schools will reopen first, presumably under the guidance. So there's a lot up in the air. We don't know exactly when it'll happen. We are hopeful for the first week of February. We should find out more in the next 7 days. when it'll happen. And then hopefully at Healdsburg High School and Smith Robinson Gym on the 1st or 2nd of February, we're able to start administering vaccines to our educators. So that is our hope. But as everything pandemic related, there's a lot of uncertainty. So continue on. And actually when I'm talking about vaccines, they are going to, it'll be for public and private schools. It'll be for childcare workers, preschools, et cetera. So it's not just simply teachers. All school staff will be vaccinated. So there's been a lot talked about publicly. Governor Newsom made some waves with his Safe School for All proposal, and I wanted to just go through a few facets of it. He publicly shared his proposal on the 30th of December, right before New Year. This is simply a plan or a proposal. This is not law. This has no binding effect yet on anybody. It's simply what the governor wants to do. So it has to be approved by the state legislature. I've been speaking with people at the state level. There's committees, education committees that aren't even talking about it till this week, at the end of the week. There's an expectation that hopefully by the 1st of February, we'd have some closure on it and the approval of a plan. But I think by all accounts, the plan is going to change before it's actually legislated into law and approved. But as it stands right now, it's a plan based on incentives for opening schools. So schools that can open, there's waves of money that are attached to certain dates when you open, or when you actually have plans to open in place. The first wave is having your plans finalized by February 1st and reopening TK2 by February 16th. If you can do that, you would be eligible for $450 per student incentive money to your school district. So if, say, Healdsburg was to do it, that's $600,000 we would be eligible for, more or less. Likely that those dates change, obviously, since they're probably not going to approve the plan till January 30th. And there's a lot of, and I'll talk more about this controversy around this concept of incentivizing, and problem about where the money is coming from. Allowing schools to reopen in his proposal, he actually, this is really interesting. So you will recall in the Blueprint for a Safer Economy, schools previously, you could open in purple with a waiver, or you could wait till you were well into red. You had to be several weeks into red, which meant primarily you needed to have 7 per 100,000 adjusted case rate, or new cases a day per population in your county. So for Sonoma County, I'll recall 35 was sort of our number we were shooting for, or 34. We need to be under 35, since we have about 500,000 people. The governor's plan changed 7 to 28. So suddenly the metrics for school reopening changed. And then just Friday, the California Department of Health issued a new number at 25. So we've gone from 7 to 28 to 25 in the matter of weeks. Karen, can you go back? Oh, you were skipping ahead because I was there. I'm sorry. Well, we'll skip that slide when I get there. School plans are due by, like I said, February 1, so you would open by the 16th. And then the other incentive wave is for 3rd and 6th grade to open by March 15th to be eligible for those. And then there's a secondary incentive where you can come in and open in March and get a little bit less money per student under the governor's proposal. Now you can skip ahead, Karen, sorry. So yeah, I highlighted this. So we just got new guidance. So now the number is 25 per 100,000 daily average. There is a rationale for it. So if you go and read the document and some of the rationale, there's a scientific rationale for going from 7 to 25, basically based on the fact that kids don't seem to be carriers of the virus. And there hasn't been a lot of outbreak in schools, although it doesn't do anything to address concerns regarding adults working in schools with the kids. And then the other changing guidance that's a big highlight is, while they want to see a good faith effort to have students remain 6 feet apart from each other in a classroom setting, it is now permissible to go to 4 feet apart. That was news that just came out on Friday from the California Department of Public Health. Still, student to teacher distance needs to be 6 feet apart, however. So, all right, concerns about Newsom's plan. There is still too much of the safety provisions that are left up to school districts. We've had virtually, the best example of this is cohorting. So when you look at secondary schools coming back, there is nothing from the state, and we've actually pinned the county down and asked them straight, tell us the number of cohorts we can do with students in a day or a week for secondary, so we can conceptualize what it would look like. and they won't answer it, right? There's no specificity. It's left up to school districts. And I was in the paper quoted a couple days ago saying this is ludicrous. We are not public health experts. We shouldn't be making these types of decisions. We should be getting definitive guidance from the state. And so I've actually been working through different lawmakers and lobbying groups to ask for just that. Just tell us exactly what to do. Don't leave these health decisions up for educators to make. The plan does nothing to limit liabilities for school districts. So we've talked several times about this, how we, A, don't have insurance coverage because no communicable diseases are covered, and B, the state has done nothing, although there's been several bills that have come across the legislature to limit school liability. Nobody's saying it needs to be erased, but so there's a risk inherently financially for the district, which is money going away from kids should there be a lawsuit of some kind because of the liability issue. The proposed plan uses education dollars in the state budget to pay for extra pandemic related costs. So this presumably in the incentive money that Newsom has offered up, that money is going to get usurped into testing, into PPE, into ventilation issues. One of the original hallmarks of his plan, actually, that I didn't mention was testing students, which is a new one in terms of state guidance and would be very expensive to do. And so there may even be, and this just came out, a superintendent of San Diego Unified, I believe, published a letter in the newspaper this morning about how she crunched the numbers, and it would actually cost the district money to open up, even though they were taking the incentive dollars, right? Simply because of the cost of testing their students. So the money that is incentivized in his plan actually comes out of the education budget that should be going to books and teacher salaries and curriculum, and would be actually being usurped for pandemic related health costs. So that's a major concern statewide around his plan. So again, I touched on the students there. Number 5, there's the concept that there would be some small wealthier districts that don't have as much COVID in their area and are able to easily make agreements to reopen, would therefore get the extra money. And then districts that are either larger or coming from more impoverished communities, or as we've all seen in the news, the virus seems to be more prevalent in communities of color. And so those are the places that are less likely to be able to open up, and therefore we'd be deepening the inequities that already exist between school districts and the state and communities. And so that's a sort of high level criticism. And Diane, we did yesterday receive a template through DTS from the state. So we just got the template that would be due and supposedly board approved by February 1st yesterday. So there's a lot left up in the air, and no, I don't recommend that we run to do it because, like I said, the plan is going to change, and the template may not. So it's a good place to start, but I don't believe that Newsom's plan will come to fruition. So those are some of the concerns. It will change. It's a proposal. So the question of the hour or the month or the year is, when will HUSD reopen? And I will say right now, we still don't know. We're currently set to reopen on February 15th. I'm here to say that's not going to happen. I want it to be absolutely clear. Sometime before February 15th, we're going to have to come together and decide on throwing a dart at another date, or maybe a metric, depending on where things are. But I didn't feel like we were in a place to do that, because I do believe we're going to get more definitive guidance from the state, and we're going to have more vaccination information in the next 7 days. And so I want to bring something definitive before the board that sets a hard date or a hard condition on reopening, rather than like we have been doing, just kind of pulling dates out of the air, which is honestly what it is. So we will wait for more state guidance in the next few days, and there will be a special board meeting that we'll have to call sometime before February 15th with the next kind of steps. But let's hope that it's vaccinations and they're coming, and we're able to get those going the beginning of February. We are currently discussing things with teachers using a metrics-based approach, and honestly, vaccines. And so making progress there, and feel good about the process, and that we're close to having an agreement in place, and that vaccines will come and we'll be okay. So provided all things go to plan, best case scenario, I think, would most likely be March or April for elementary, later for secondary. And I'm going to honestly say there's a big if secondary even is able to come back. Right now, current guidance for secondary where you're cohorting kids is that you have to be in the red tier. And from all accounts, I hear red tier is not coming for some time. Secondary has a lot up in the air still, just simply because of the number of classes kids have and the number of cohorts they'd have to be in, and nobody giving us guidance on that. So a lot more to do for secondary. I also, as I spoke about negotiations, I wanted to read this. So this is a joint statement that was created by our district negotiating team and the Healdsburg Area Teachers Association negotiating team yesterday. We actually were engaged in negotiations yesterday. And so I'm going to read this to you, and I support what it's saying. The district and HADA have been in collaborative conversation and process since the pandemic began. We're very close to agreement in many areas of an agreement regarding reopening in December prior to receiving the governor's latest proposal and then CDPH guidance, the California Department of Public Health, which changed Friday. That included significant modifications. We're continuing to work together to ensure safety for all. We're hopeful that vaccines will become available soon and that we can pin down the ever-changing metrics needed for a safe reopening. So, and again, we are, discussions have been fruitful, and I do think we're on the cusp of having an agreement in place. And I think more than anything, vaccines are going to be our best hope and fastest at getting our kids back in school. Any opening of the schools will be phased, right? We'll start with the youngest first and move from there. And so that is what I have for you. Are there any questions or discussion? Actually, let me stop you, Karen. Was there any public comment before we get into board discussion?
Good idea.
Yeah.
I do not have an actual public comment, but I have a question, and I think you should be able to answer it. It's from Mr. Flores and Ever Flores, and he's asked about the new guideline to reopen was weekly average of 28 per 100,000 cases. Not
in Governor Newsom's guideline, it was 28. That was in his Safe Schools for All. CDPH guidance, which came out on Friday, is 25. So it changed by 3. So in Sonoma County, 25 per 100,000, you're looking at a 225 case rate, right? Divided by 5 because we have 500,000. Anyway, so yeah, it's 25 now. It's, yeah, good question. It's all massively confusing because it changes on a weekly basis.
all right. I do not have any other public comments.
Any board discussion or questions? Donna, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it was definitely a good idea to get public comment in there. I just want to say thank you for the update, because it just, I mean, we get information every day, all day, and yet it feels like, where's the information? Like, what is it? What's the relevant information, I guess, is the biggest question. So I appreciate the update. Unfortunately, it's not great news, but then looking at the cases in California, I don't, could be worse news, I guess.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think vaccines are going to be the best avenue, and I am hopeful. I'm not hopeful. I will say, I'm being honest. I don't know that it's going to happen the 1st of February, but I am hopeful that in the short term, the state, I've talked with some state legislators, and they are prioritizing this, like getting a system in place to be able to get those out quickly. Unfortunately, I found an article on Friday where California is 49th in the country in administering vaccines. West Virginia's first. I'm going to leave it there.
Although it has gotten better according to the information this week, that they've really made up for lost time, and they feel a little more confident.
I'm also hopeful that with the new Biden administration, that there might be more of a national effort and mobilization of resources to be able to get the vaccines. I will be honest, it is so incredibly frustrating to me as an educator, as a citizen, to see the lack of organization with vaccines at the state and federal level. So it can only improve. And I've read some things online that do give me hope that it's going to come quicker. And SCO has hired our former superintendent, Jeff Harding, to manage the vaccine rollout for educators, which is helpful for us because I know him well, so I can get information and give information. And it's the first thing in the county that seems organized in terms of a vaccine rollout. So it's just about getting them, and then I know they're going to come quickly, and we'll have them here at the high school gym, and we'll get our people as well as neighboring districts in to get them administered. And keep in mind, if it is the Moderna vaccine, it is a 4-week in between first and second dose. So there will be a lag in time. And then you actually, I think it's Varsity and Kristen, 10 days to 2 weeks before you're actually developing, 2 weeks before you develop the
Antibodies.
immunity. So yeah.
So if I may, a couple things. First of all, it's obvious to me that a lot of work has gone into this. In spite of the confusion from the powers that be, in other words, not within our power. But I really want to express my appreciation to Varsity, to Kristen, and to Diane for obviously a great amount of work. I can't even. I've read the whatever this is called, the reopening plan, and it's just a ton of work. So my hat's off to you. I really do appreciate it. Also, I'd like to express my appreciation to Hannah. I know it's really hard. I always think if I were a teacher, or if I were in the union, what would I be wanted? I would want to be vaccinated. And I'm quite honestly thrilled that we're ready. we just need the vaccine. But I appreciate their cooperation working with the superintendent to get the teachers ready to help alleviate their concerns and their fears. And I would share those as far as for their safety and then the safety of our kids. And then finally to the superintendent, this didn't all happen because he's sitting back, chopping wood or whatever it is that you do when you go home. But I just really want to say thank you. The way I look at it, we're ready. We're just waiting for the other people to get their act together. I just wish they would. And I think you said this with the new federal administration. Hopefully they can get their act together within, I don't know, 24 hours, maybe 48. That'll trickle down, if you will, to the state and then to the county and then to us, because I think people are waiting, they're ready. In my observation of the vaccines, it's been going around literally in the last week. It's been very confusing, and I won't get into all that, but it has been confusing for us older folks, plus people that aren't as old as I am. And so, again, hats off to all of you. I know we're ready. So for the parents to say, I want our kids in, we want the kids in. We absolutely want them in, but we want to make sure it's safe. And I am confident that when we're ready to go, when we pull that trigger, we will be very safe for the kids and for the staff. So again, thank you very much.
Yeah, I should say too, that I have a meeting tomorrow with the state contact that hopefully will have some more information about vaccines. So I might have more information to share that I will definitely forward to the board and to Hada. So. And
I don't know if he has all the answer, but our Senator, Mr. McGuire, I have just a note here on January 26th. He's having I don't know if it's a Zoom or some sort of meeting to talk about the coronavirus. So maybe he'll have an update for all of us, but at least an update as of the 26th. And those of us who know Mike, he is on top of everything. And I'm sure if he's doing this, he's going to be on top of this. So I look forward to seeing that. So hopefully we'll see that in next week. So
that's who I'm talking to in the morning. So yeah.
Excellent. On the inside, good.
He's pushing for sure. Yeah.
Chris, I have one more question about, whatever happened to the idea of a waiver? Is that?
So yeah, that's a good question. So it's sort of been replaced. So right now, waiver is not possible. Under the new guidance, they are saying, so this is a good question. So back to that 25 to 100,000 daily case rate, you have to submit basically everything Diane talked about in the state templates to the state and county for approval and then when you hit that metric point, 25 to 100,000, you can reopen. So that is basically replace the waiver process. Or there's sort of this automatic red reopening trigger that can also happen in the guidance, although you still have to have those documents, but it doesn't require the county and the state signing off. So yeah. So it's changed a little. They've changed semantically what they call it, and they've obviously changed the metrics.
Chris, if we go into that red metrics, let's suppose that we do, would we be able to remain open if we go back to purple?
Yes. So currently, schools that were already open for in-person are still open, barring having some sort of exposure breakout at school. So. Yeah, and I will say too that we don't have kids in school, right? But we have our preschool program running as daycare. We have our the team effort through the city in Corazon to have the Camp HBG 2.0 open for our elementary kids. We've had athletic teams conditioning, and we have had cases where COVID has popped up here and there, right? But we have not yet had anything that was spread through our programs. It was all community spread that was brought in. And so, again, thank you, Varsi and Kristen, for helping us create those conditions so that everybody is safe. So that's been awesome to see so far.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, well, thank you very much, team. Moving on to Hillsburg High School and Marcy Becerra Academy Class of 2021 graduation requirements. This is also a discussion item.
Thank you, Flores. I just wanted to say that just a reminder that the whole PDF of our proposal is in your board packet. I have just a series of pretty straightforward slides that I'll discuss tonight and go over the general rationale and history and some specifics of our proposal, but there's more detail in your packet. I also want to thank Chris and Aaron and Kelly and Ever for assisting in this process. It's been a real collaborative effort. In particular, I want to shout out to Kelly, who I think has joined us tonight, who really put a lot of the detail and thought into this plan that I'm sharing tonight. And I'm also encouraging Chris and Aaron, feel free to chime in as I'm going through this presentation and share your perspectives and our rationale for these proposals to the board. You know, last year when we did graduation, we talked about the graduation class of 2020 overcoming an immense amount of hardships on their way to their graduation diploma, which good on them. Huge majority made it to the final end and did receive their diploma. And then you look at the class of 2021 and they've kind of doubled down on those hardships. This class too has been through fires and floods and power outages and evacuations. And by the time we get around to their graduation, they'll be out of school for 13 months of instruction, 13 months of sports, 13 months of community building, culture building, and being part of the thriving community that we have at Hillsburg High School. So we believe it's essential of us to provide these students an opportunity who are at jeopardy to not graduate to earn their diploma. And we're very much committed to striking that balance between our high standards as a district and also being rational and realistic about the challenges that our students have faced and how some students are not going to be able to fully overcome those challenges and receive the traditional high school, Hillsburg High School diploma or Marcy Becerra Academy diploma. So next slide, please. Actually, Karen, could you go back for a quick second? Thank you. I forgot to mention something that I think is all board trustees are well aware of this. Not receiving a high school diploma is a life-changing experience for our students. And much of the reason some of our students are in jeopardy of not graduating and receiving that diploma is for conditions out of their hands. They're conditions that they didn't have any control of. And we believe strongly that, you know, we can't victimize our students, again, balancing their challenges with our standards and making sure they get their diploma. So thank you, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about community service a couple times at our board meetings. We have mentioned the hardship that students have faced in trying to fulfill these hours. Many of our students and many of our records indicate have continued to fulfill their community service requirements, even in the face of the pandemic and the other interruptions to their life. And many of our students are actually trying to fulfill their community service requirement while they're taking care of things in their home. They're watching little brothers and sisters, they're helping out. Some of our students have went out and became employed because the family had financial necessity for everybody to do their part. and still most of our students, or many of our students, are going to fulfill this requirement, but we are recommending that we waive the community service requirement for the class of 2021, and then renew our efforts towards that next year when we're able to have in-person learning and our students are able to access resources in our community and the service providers that Shelley shared with you earlier tonight. Okay, Marcy Becerra. As we mentioned in 2 presentations, and you had the great opportunity of hearing from one of our students, I believe at the last board meeting, we're very excited about the progress of Marcy Becerra Academy and becoming fully a big picture learning school and a student interest driven program where students have a variety of ways to earn their credits, and including attending classes and doing credit recovery through Edmentum or Plato, but also having outside experiences to earn those credits in addition to their coursework. That said, our Marcy Becerra Academy graduation requirements are still at 210, and many of our students, because of their hardships and the challenges that all of our students have faced, would be hard pressed to get to 210, and we're proposing 180 as our graduation requirements. That does include the state minimums of 3 years of English, 2 years of math, including algebra, 3 years of social studies, 2 years of science, both life and physical, 2 years of physical education, year of language other than English or visual and performing arts, 2 years of CTE, which is a Healdsburg unique requirement, a year of advisory. As we've discussed with you, advisory is a critical component of mentoring involved in big picture learning schools. And then 2 years of a junior or freshman seminar or electives like support classes like integrated math 1 support and ELD support. And again, we're recommending that Marcy Becerra Academy students would be able to receive their diploma at 180 credits with those specific requirements. The absolute state minimum is 130. We do not believe we have to go to the absolute state minimum for Marcy Becerra because our students have actually really accelerated their credit earning this year. And as we've said before, the big picture learning model is working for them. And then next slide, please. Okay. The rationale we've talked about as is for our Healdsburg High School students. And for our seniors this year, we've implemented a lot of lifeline strategies to assist our students. We've extended grading periods. Our teachers have been very flexible. We allowed our teachers to give seniors who didn't pass a class in the first semester, but earned close to a passing grade, they were able to give them a no mark at semester. And then they had till February 1st, 2 weeks from now, to fulfill the requirements of the first semester classes and hopefully receive a passing grade. The good news, I found out today that 3 of our students have fulfilled that requirement already, turned in their necessary work and have changed their no mark to a passing grade. And their graduation pathway is pretty clear from now on if they take care of their second semester classes. Again, the state requirement is the 180. But what we are recommending for our Healdsburg High School students is that we continue with our current credit requirement, but we provide the opportunity for the counselors, the administration, and the family and the student to work together to look at potentially having an individual graduation plan for certain students that need that extra assistance to get to the finish line. Some of the courses that potentially would be waived is a course of English, potentially going for three years of math, a third course of math, 2 years versus 3, a third course of science, language other than English, visual performing arts, CTE, potentially a course of freshman seminar or junior seminar, and elective credits. In your individual packet, you can see the graduation plan waiver proposal that we have, which again would be worked out in collaboration with the counselor, the student, the family, administration. It would be signed off by all parties, and we would bring those individual graduation plans for a small handful of Healdsburg High School seniors who need that support to get to their diploma.
Excuse me, Mr. Holliday, this is Mike Palmer. So could you just remind me how many credits are each course? Say like a course in English, how many credits is that?
5 credits per semester, 10 per year.
Okay. So theoretically, okay, well, I got it. Up to 30 credits could be waived.
Right, up to 30.
Okay.
But a
And it could be-
hypothetical example, Mike, would be if a student had failed their 12th grade English class in the first semester or got a no mark, but was unable to fulfill the requirements to have their no mark transition into a passing grade, we may just tick that one box on the sheet, have everybody sign off it, and we bring it to the board that student would be short 5 credits in our 240 requirement, 4-year of English requirement for graduation.
Great, thank you.
I have a question about some of the classes like junior or freshman seminar. I mean, these kids are seniors now, so how,
Right.
like didn't they already take that, or maybe they didn't take it and that's a problem now? How, help me out here.
It is a problem because the students have been, again, if a student failed freshman seminar or they failed junior seminar, which again is a small number, but it does happen, they have to take those courses on credit recovery. Say they failed 3 or 4 courses in their freshman, sophomore, or junior year. They've been behind in credits, maybe not so much that they got referred to Marcy Becerra, but they've had online courses in addition to their 7 courses over these years, over the last couple of years. And with this amount of disruption, some students have been unable to fulfill both their classroom requirements and their online course credit recovery requirements.
And it sounds like every student who's at risk is going to be like sat down and chatted with, and like it's not just like, oh, everybody 180, you're good, right? It's like, no. Here's your situation, you're having problems in these 2 areas, and let's do this for you. And then the next person is, you're just short this much, and whatever. But I mean, it's really going to be specific. It's not just this blanket, oh, you guys are done now.
No, we are proposing the 180 from Marcy Becerra. We think that best serves those 17 seniors. But we're not proposing anything close to that for Healdsburg High School because it's a small number of seniors who will require the support. And we're going to honor them later, and I'm going to thank them again. Ever and Kelly, our 2 counselors, have been doing a lot more than just sitting down and reminding these kids. Some of these seniors have been working with Everett Kelly 2, 3, 4 days a week on Zoom calls and connections and family meetings to make sure that the students are really clear about what they have to fulfill to get their credits and to pass their classes. The amount of email and phone calls that go between Everett and Kelly and myself, frankly, and the teachers about individual students, and the amount of contact we make with them to ensure that they're being supported and nurtured and pushed as much as possible is actually pretty remarkable.
I'd like to kind of second that and make sure that we're clear that, this is one of those things where Healdsburg High and MBA being both big enough and small enough, right? That we can offer the breadth of courses that we do, but also do something like this, where, Santa Rosa City is kind of forced to say, here's the 3 buckets, right, that we can offer kids who are seniors, and you're going to fit into one of these 3 graduation plan buckets in a large system. For ours, we can look at each individual kid. Kelly and Ever have already been doing that, right? They looked at that kind of towards the end of last year and gave us a heads up. And so rather than having to do a blanket waive, so in Windsor, they've waived that 4th year English credit for all alternative ed school kids. That's over 100 students.
Wow.
So we can take this real individualized approach and continue to kind of push and help and get kids every darn last credit that we think that we can get them. But there will become a point where, like Bill said, individual circumstance should not inhibit their ability to get a high school diploma. And so we're going to try to kind of both hold our super high standards that we have in Healdsburg, which is, some of the highest graduation requirements in our region, let alone state, but also be very personalized to our approach. And that's where the form comes in. So Bill, I and the counselors will meet next Friday, the 29th. So we have this sheet where we're seeing like what do kids need, start getting real serious about that. The counselors have already done a lot of preliminary work to get us even to making this presentation for you. And then in a closed session, when we're ready, student by student, we'll be able to say, this is what a student needs to waive and why. And so that will be done on an individualized basis in a closed session as we get closer to the spring.
Thank you, Erin. So I want to commend us for, or you all for bringing this to the table, and because I agree, I think that a high school diploma is crucial for their success, future success. So it's really important that we're having this discussion. So thank you for bringing it. But I also want to get ahead of the game. So I'm really wanting some discussions and some presentations about what are we doing for our juniors and our sophomores and our freshmen, because they're going to be in the same situation. So I'm really curious to know what we're doing to support all of our students that are struggling now. So I'd like to hear from Mr. Holliday and from Erin and perhaps even the junior high, but I really want to know like what we're doing to get ahead of the game so that we're not having to have this discussion next year for our current juniors and our current sophomores in the year after that and our freshmen. So I really want to know what our interventions are for those students.
Okay. Well, you know, Araceli, it all stems out of the classroom. It all starts with the teacher. And our teachers are doing.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. You can definitely address the question, but I think part of what I've had a conversation with Araceli, we can bring this as a more formal presentation next month. So we can talk specifically like big picture, what we've done over the course of the first semester and how we see the second semester changing, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't need to comprehensively answer it right now. Just wanted to.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, just because that was a request of mine for February, Bill. So
for future,
Okay.
no problem. It's a really good question, and we've got some good stuff, some stuff on the boiler, some stuff on the simmer. But yeah, it's
And Araceli, I would like to answer in part by saying that your concern is well shared by the staff, by the whole team, that we have certain students, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that have had extremely difficult times since we've been in distance learning, and we will be needing to create individual kind of recovery plans and pathways for success for students in each grade level in the coming year and two.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to commend the team too. You know, we really went about this with the philosophy, like I've said before, we don't want kids' futures being hijacked by the pandemic. And as we've all said, not getting a high school diploma is, you know, Bill, you had like a weird slip saying instead of distraction, destruction. It's destructive to a life, right? And so we want to do everything we can to keep kids on a path to success. And I'm very grateful for the counselors for bringing this forward, and Bill and Erin. You know, as a parent, it has been hard to see how my own kids have been affected by the pandemic. And so everything we can do to make sure that their futures are as bright as possible, and that their trajectory hasn't been significantly influenced by COVID-19, I think is important. So thank you, team. And I'm really pleased with the direction we're headed.
Yeah, and our counselors being super proactive about this, getting the information to us to be able to make good decisions and, you know, provide you guys the hard data that you'll see on each of these students when we come forward to ask for any IGPs, any individual graduation plans that we'll ask for you to pass.
So we made a new acronym.
Yeah, exactly. We have a new education acronym. As my 10-year-old son says, teachers love acronyms. Yes, we do. But you know, we saw from summer school, we had triple the number of credits earned in the last summer school. We're already talking about how are we going to get these kids back on track? Not only just the current 12th graders, but all of our students.
I have a question. How many students do you think roughly will this impact?
We had, as I mentioned, we had some good news today about 3 particular seniors. It's hard to say right now. I think I could give you a better answer after the first grading period,
Okay.
About 3 weeks from now.
I think this is just great and really good to be proactive about it. And I can imagine from the perspective of a student, knowing that you, through work and intention and everything, will be able to graduate at the end of the year. Knowing that now or around now is going to make a big difference in what the rest of this academic year looks like, and just outlook for the future at a time when outlooks for the future seem kind of dark, you know, all around. So
Yeah, I'm not sure if Kelly Mason is still here with us. We were having a conversation back in December about this, and as we were heading into final, I think it was on one of the finals days, and I've been on calls with Kelly where she's talking to me, and she's also monitoring a student who's doing their homework. Right, she's just kind of sitting with them on Zoom and coaching them. And she was saying, we're getting some COVID miracles come in. I just talked to a kid who found out he passed he went from a D- to a C because he turned in some work and late work and got a good job on the final. So the numbers are really tough to nail down. But man, our people are right there pushing, holding support, push, hold, and so I think like Bill said, we'll have a much better idea because we did get some, to make a joke, some COVID miracles at the semester, and out of the good work of our teaching staff and our students just getting it done. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, any other questions, comments?
But may I just express my appreciation to, it's always hard to hear, well, we're going to, cut this out and cut this out. But in listening to Mr. Halliday's presentation, the care, the concern, and the commitment that has gone on for the past semester as, I'm not sure drowning is the right word, but as we saw students struggling, and the support that they've been given. And I'm thrilled to hear that our counselors are the picture of Kelly, zooming with the student while talking to Aaron, I like. But just the fact is, like, what can we do to save these kids so they don't sink through no fault of their own? And we will continue to support them through the end of the year to their graduation. So I congratulate you. I assume this is going to come back next time for an action, but you have my full support and appreciation. Thank you.
Yeah, our goal, Mike, just so it's clear, is to have specific waivers for you next time in closed session that you would approve individually. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Okay, next we have Hillsborough Unified School District English Language Development Program. This is a report from Aaron Fender.
Yeah, so Karen, you can go ahead and pull up the slides. I'm going to try to move quickly through the beginning here. So the slide deck is in the packet. If anybody in the public wants to pull it up, board members, you have your packet. Some of this is a retread from slides that the returning board members would have seen in the fall. So in the fall, I do a report on Title III, which is federal dollars that we get to support English language learners. So some of these slides are taken from that. I just dropped them from Title III into here just to kind of get Trustee McAllister and Trustee Lopez kind of up to speed on a few things. So we're going to move quickly, right? We're in declining enrollment. We're sitting right around 1,300 students. Next slide. We see the overall population dipping along with our English learner population. So you can see, it's pretty representative in terms of as the number of school-aged kids in Sonoma County and really in Healdsburg, where it's, the most expensive town really in Sonoma County to live, we see our population declining. Next slide. We pay attention not only to the number of English learners we have, but the number of students who are RFEP, so reclassified fluent English proficient. So you can see we've been on this journey. As our numbers have declined, the number of RFEPs have declined slightly as well. But we still feel pretty good. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later into the percentage. So it's one thing to look at raw numbers and then another to look at the percent of students that reclassify each year. I think the percentage gives us a little bit of a clearer trend line to understand, how we're doing and serving our EL students. Next slide. We pay attention to when students are RFEP. So what grade are they in? What school, where are they at? It's normal for kids to RFEP in about third, fourth, beginning of fifth grade. When they RFEP prior to that, it's quite an accomplishment of the teachers and the families. Maybe they came in with a higher level of native bilingualism. So we pay attention to, what grade band and when do they RFEP, how many years does it take? So that's what this slide is representing. And any trustees who want to go over this separately, I just wanted to kind of refresh us and give us some data. If you guys want to dig in on this, Trustee Lopez and McAllister, I know might be newer data for you. I just wanted to remind our returning trustees and give you guys this. So next slide. So another way to represent the data, and I know we always talk about these stacked bars being hard to look at. I know I need to do something with this slide, but didn't have time. So the number of RFEPs there annually, and then the number of EL students. So these are our ever ELs. There's a new term out there, ever EL. So a student who was ever an EL, because once they RFEP, we lose them out of the EL data pool. So when we look at number of kids who are, let's say, A to G, receiving A to G completion, if they're in the EL pool, that means they haven't RFEP. But once they RFEP, then we lose them. So we pay attention to that. That's another way to look at it. Next slide. All right, so here's the meat of the update. This is some newish information and some update on material that we presented earlier. So at the high school, we have been partnering this year, a new partnership with an organization called EL Achieve. Our high school designated EL teacher, so we only have one right now, and she's 0.8, she's 80%, so she teaches 4 classes of designated ELD. She's completed her training. It was all virtual. We supposed to be doing it in person, but she did it virtual because of the pandemic. With EL Achieve, we purchased new designated ELD curriculum for our bridging and expanding courses. So those mid, kind of level 2-3 kids and level 4 kids who are just about to RFEP, we have brand new curriculum for them in their designated ELD class. I just had a conversation with Ms. McNally, Roxanne McNally, who's teaching just last week about the curriculum. Is it a good fit? And she likes it. Mikey, she likes it. I trust her, and she's saying it's a good fit. She finds it much more engaging and rigorous than some of the material that we've had in the past. So we're feeling good about that early implementation and partnership with EL Achieve. We do plan to expand to include support for integrated ELD. That is not something that we've hit real hard on at the high school level. I want to be transparent about that. For all HHS teachers, it's just given the nature of what we're doing right now, it's not the right time, but it will be, and it is a part of our partnership and long-term planning with EL Achieve as an organization. We continue to use Rosetta Stone, leaning on it a little bit more heavily as kids are isolated, and trying to help them listen and speak and practice the English language. So it can be taped. It's Rosetta Stone for education. It's not like the tapes that you and I would buy, or it's much more comprehensive because it's for the educational environment. The teacher has lots of data. They can see, how long the students are working on various things. They can listen to tapes of kids speaking and listening, speaking in Rosetta Stone. So we're pretty happy with that software as well. So that's the update on high school. The junior high, you may remember we were very excited, and we had, we have the contract, we have the partnership sitting on the books with Dr. Kate Kinsella and her associate Jennifer Finney Ellison. However, given the nature of the work that they do, they asked us to put this on hold. Dr. Kinsella was very adamant that this work would not be successful in the conditions that we're under, and that she didn't want to kick off this work at our junior high without being able to meet with our teachers on a regular basis, be in our classrooms. So right now, that professional development training and support is not happening. As soon as we get back on campus, we hope we will be able to kick it off. But Dr. Kinsella was very straightforward with Chris Miller and I, the principal Chris Miller, that she didn't feel good about kicking off this work in virtually. So we pivoted. We didn't want to do nothing. We know we needed to do something. And so we had looked at this before, and it was ridiculously expensive through WestEd, the Quality Teaching for English Learners, known by QTEL, with WestEd. So this is kind of a silver lining in the pandemic, and that things, it didn't work out with Kinsella. But because this is all online and virtual institute, and we're not having to pay WestEd people to come up or go down to San Francisco or Oakland, we now have all of our ELA, ELD teachers and all of our history, social science teachers participating in a virtual institute throughout this second semester. So there are 4 live interactive virtual sessions and then intermediary work that happens over this next semester. They kicked off, is it this week or next week? I need to see what the date is. Yeah, this week. So this became affordable because it's all online. So we are continuing to provide professional development and support, and I'm thrilled. This was by choice. We offered it to our ELA, ELD teachers and our history, social science, and they all took advantage of the opportunity. So I want to appreciate them of fitting this in to their already busy day and being online. Yeah, we didn't say you have to do this, because it's happening, pretty much after their school day. We continue to get support from Dr. Catlin Tucker. This was at request of the teachers. They've had a number of sessions online. Yeah, she's an expert in blended learning, hitting it out of the park, doing a lot of work to help them differentiate, particularly their writing, both the writing assignments, but also the writing assessments, and using those assessments as a formative tool, and meeting the kids where they're at to support their English language development, as well as their English language arts, because it's the same teacher now, right? They have the same teacher for English language arts as they do for English language development. So getting better at melding those two worlds. That's really what Callan's been focused on. Was it Principal Miller? You're gonna have to help me out, and I think you're here. This week or next, we have Study Sync, which is our core curriculum, providing a session for our teachers to remind them of all of the wonderful materials that are in our core curriculum for integrated and designated ELD. So that's again been an effort, is to use our core curriculum for both integrated and designated ELD, which Study Sync has. So they have a session for that.
They actually did it last week.
Thank you. Awesome. I wasn't able to attend. Any nuggets of information?
I did not attend either.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in my world, no news is good news. So I didn't hear from any teachers saying they hated it, which is a good thing. All right. Next slide. Nope. Whoops. Okay. This is somewhat of a retread. So, remember that back in the spring, we worked on ELD standards. We had PBL Works provide a 3-day training in August, a virtual training. So that was all completed, where they focused on ELL scaffolds in project-based learning. That was not something that every single teacher attended. It was, offered, but majority of teachers attended, and came, people liked it, it seemed like. We have had trainings from our core curriculum, the journeys and benchmark. And then what we've been doing right now is updating scope and sequences, because all teachers are teaching ELD now, not just some, but all of our elementary teachers teach designated ELD. And so we've really been leaning on, and I love that we have more of our teachers teaching teachers. So they have ELD training in elementary every month. 1 month it's taught by our in-house experts, our own teachers who've been doing this for a long time. And then the other month we get training and coaching from 2 folks who are currently principals in another district, who provide training during our common planning time and professional development time that we have in our schedules. So we can go to the next slide, because this kind of talk a little bit more about where I'm getting into. So that first bullet there is the PD being provided every month that I just talked about. I get into the details a little bit about RFEP monitoring, but I wanted to talk about this in the elementary. It's our expectation. Most of our kids start with us as kindergartners who are bilingual and need English language development services. And so when we RFEP them in second, third, fourth grade, that RFEP monitoring needs to happen right away. We want to make sure that our kids don't slip and that we haven't missed something. And so Erica McGuire is an expert at this. She's really good at data and looking at kids and consulting with teachers. And so we use STAR, we use our internal assessments from our core curriculum, and conferencing with the teacher. Thankfully, we still do parent-teacher conferences at elementary. So checking in with parents and determining if kids are slipping, is it a language issue or is it something else? Thankfully, I guess, 9 times out of 10, we find that it's something else, that when we see our RFEP students struggling, that it's not usually a language issue, that we haven't missed something in supporting their English language development. It has more to do with behavior, environment, particularly in distance learning. So what do we do? Trustee Romo Flores, you've been an advocate, rightfully so, about what happens when, and what do we do if kids begin to struggle? Our elementary teachers are running a lot of small groups. So one of the nice things about distance learning is that, they don't have their parents have them for when they're not doing small group, right? So they can pull a small group. They can pull a one-on-one to provide scaffolding and differentiation. So we're seeing a lot of that happening. So it's generally the classroom teacher. We do have a reading intervention teacher at HES. And sometimes in a consultative mode, we have our special educator who does have about 20% of her time to provide scaffolding, differentiation, and support to students who are struggling. And again, trying to needle out, whether it's about English language development, a learning disability, some other issue. I wanted to put out there that the principals and I have spoken, Jeff Franey and Erica McGuire, about needing to engage teachers to get input around ideas for future PD. So, we kind of had to launch all this in pandemic, and we knew we needed to do something. We had the ELD external evaluation. You'll remember we closed school right after that ELD evaluation presentation from Dr. Nichols. And so we will, as we get into the second semester and start planning for professional development and support and what we need to do, getting input and ideas from our teachers. So I just want to make that commitment publicly. Next slide. So both good news and bad news, right? I think that's the reality of our lives. I've mentioned that due to the school closures, we were not able to complete the summative LPAC in the spring that we are required to do with all English language learners, except for the junior high. So we did complete the junior high. We were given a chance by the CDE to administer an optional summative LPAC in the fall. So I got a little data there for us. I've alluded to this. We had 22 first through fifth graders that we were able to administer the summative LPAC to. And these were students that we were looking at other data, looking at STAR data, classroom performance, their report cards, some early indicators from formative assessments teachers use in the classroom. We had 15 of those students score a 4, and all other of the students were scored in the high 3s. So I'll take that, given that this is pandemic learning. I'm pretty sure we RFEP'd all 15 of those kids that received a 4. So that increased our RFEP numbers, which I'll get into here. We had 4 HHS students that we felt were prepared and ready and willing to take the summative. We did that fully remotely. None of them scored a 4. And so our take home from this, and this is something that I've been sharing in other places that I visit, is that when we do this in the spring, and we will be giving the LPAC in the spring to all students, we don't think they're going to waive it, that we need to do it in person. We think a big reason why our youngest students did so well is that they were in small groups of 3 or 4 outside. They had a trusted adult guiding them through the process. We had some technology issues with even with the high schoolers, logging on, connections being stable, the secure browser, blah, blah, blah. So we're pushing really hard to do a safe and secure in-person test for our English learners in the spring. So that's what we're looking at. That was a big, big lesson for us. Next slide. So in the data I presented earlier, you saw when we did kind of our count there, we had 43 students RFEP towards the end of last year, kind of through the summer as we look at the data. 15 more of those students RFEP'd in the fall. So we had a total of 58 students, which is about, we're right around 300 English language learners in our district out of the 1,300 or so. And so 20%. Which has been our norm in HUSD for 5-6 years now. And it is about double the county and state average. So county and state average, those of you who've been around know that it's around 8 to 10%. And so I'll take 20% right now. That's I can live with that. Something that Dr. Nichols pointed out to us, and that we're taking a harder, more in-depth look at, is our at risk of being a long-term English language learner. So I've provided some data here. We have 83 English learners at Fitch Mountain. We have 5 fourth graders who are considered at risk of becoming a long-term English language learner. And what that means is that on the state test, the CASP, and on LPAC, that we're not seeing a rise. We're not seeing improvement. And so it's a red flag for us. We have 7 fifth graders who are at risk of LTEL. So we know who those kids are. We know their names. Their teachers know who they are. And so I think that's something we're getting better at, right? We've paid a lot of attention to RFEP and RFEP rate and who's RFEPing and who's not, but getting ahead of it by looking at this data of who are at risk of LTEL and who are our current LTELs are the long-term English language learners. So that means that, they've been with us for 5 or more years and they're not making steady progress on the standardized tests. So you can see then there's some data there at the junior high and the high school. Dropping to that last bullet, there's 42 students between the high school and Marcia Becerra who are English language learners. 3 are at risk, meaning that they didn't. What that means generally is either they're improving or they didn't start with us as very young people. They didn't start with us as kindergartners. But 19 of them are long-term English language learners. And you've heard me say before that any student who begins their educational career with us and is not RFEP'd by the time they're in junior high, really, we've got a problem, Houston. And so looking deeply at where as a system we have failed these students and how we can improve is something, we think we had some curriculum issues, we've had some staffing issues. Honestly, talking to the kids and asking them what's going on and how do we get better and how do we get you over the hump to be fully vaccinated. So just following up on some of the outcomes from that external evaluation that Dr. Nichols pointed out and kind of keeping the top of mind. Next slide. I'm almost done. So we're required to monitor students who have RFEP'd in the last 4 years. This is both a federal and a state requirement to kind of keep our finger on it. A lot of districts look at their standardized test score once a year, check, they're good to go if they've improved or done well on the standardized test. We've taken a much more comprehensive approach to it. We have a new form that we're using, and partly, I'm going to be completely honest and transparent, we're using a form because I don't have additional FTE allotted to the junior high and high school to do this work. And so we need to get a little more systematic about it because we don't have a point person. I don't have a Ben Gunter, we don't have a Aaron Ryan, who this is their job. And I know they're doing not only the bare minimum, but much, much, much more. So in order to hold ourselves a little more accountable, make sure that not only the bare minimum, but a little bit more, as you can see in that form happens. That form is borrowed from nearby districts, heavily borrowed from the Roseland district. We pretty much copied what they had and made a few little changes. And so the RFEP monitoring this year is being done by the principal, always at FMC. That's been pretty common. Sometimes they get help from a teacher leader who's interested in this, might be getting an admin credential or something like that. At the junior high, this is part now of our academic counseling. So all students are reviewed by Principal Miller and our counselor there, our academic counselor there, Bethany Carlson. And so we already have a process, but making sure that we look at the RFEP students, we complete the forms separate and special from the academic counseling. Again, trying to look at, do we have a language issue here, or do we have something different, environment or behavior, whatever it is. At the high school, the counselors will be helping us with this year because we don't have additional FTE. They're about to get some more information from me on who these students are and start to undertake that RFEP process with a little bit more rigor. So, again, what do we do when students are struggling? And Principal Bill Halliday alluded to this. It all starts with the teachers. So the check-in with the teachers, making sure that the teachers are aware and that they're providing extra time and support during office hours. We have, thankfully that gift of time right now in distance learning. We do have the tutoring program going on at the high school. So we have English language arts and math tutoring happening at the high school still. And a lot of check-ins by our family, parent outreach and education coordinators. So thankfully, we don't have the RFEP mentors, but we've shifted gears a little bit and shifted some of that responsibility of checking in with the family, some of that family outreach by our bilingual parent outreach and education coordinators to find out, do we have a connectivity issue or a materials issue, or maybe the student doesn't feel comfortable talking to their teacher and getting help or asking their questions. So, and as I mentioned before, commonly we find the struggle is not due to language, but other factors, including attendance, engagement, behavior, family situation. So that's the update. I'm sorry that was long. I tried to fly. Any comments, questions, suggestions?
I just have a question, Erin. Remind me, I can't remember, what do we use our Title III funds for?
We get very little money. So we get about $30,000. We use some of it to pay for the Steel Consulting. We use some of it for Rosetta Stone. We use some of it for the EL Achieve. I need to look, it goes really fast because we have so little. So we kind of parse it out and make sure that each school gets a kind of a fair share, but it's used as a combination for curriculum and consulting, basically curriculum and PD.
So are there any funds or any other language tutorials for our elementary students or junior high students to kind of help alleviate that number of long-term ELs?
I'm not understanding. What's the question?
So do we have any, so you mentioned that there's some tutorials at the high school level for students, but do we have anything at the elementary and junior high for or potentially are at risk of long-term EL students?
Nothing that's separate. Sometimes what we find at the high school and why we have tutorial is that a lot of time high school students need to hear it from a different adult and not their own teacher. So we do not have the tutorials at the elementary and junior high would be conducted by the teachers, not as a separate. We don't have like an after school tutoring program, for example, at the junior high. At elementary, we do have math lab and reading lab. And I was just reviewing the data with Principal McGuire on the RFEP monitoring, and we find that some of the students that we find that were an RFEP kid and then appear to be struggling are in reading lab. So we have an after school reading lab, but we invite students to that. It's not a drop-in like it is at the high school. So it's a little different because of the age group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a way to provide some LPAC kind of practice with those students that are struggling to get a score for in the LPAC, so that we can not have as many long-term ELs or at risk of long-term ELs.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you're right. It is just mastering the test, right? Just understanding how to find their way through that standardized test and understanding the importance of the test. That, without a 4, they are not RFEPing. A lot of kids we've found over the years don't realize, they just think, oh, it's another standardized test. Da, da, da. So yeah, good point. I'll circle back with our teachers and ask some of those questions.
Thank you.
Erin,
I have a question too.
oh, go ahead, Rose.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Crystal. That's okay.
Oh, thank you. Erin, those students who are in high school, are they being referred to these tutoring services, or is it more of I know it's a drop-in, but are they being referred to attend, or
they are, and we have a pretty strongly worded letter that Principal Halliday and the counselors use that basically says your student is being referred to tutoring. They will attend. Okay. It's not like, oh, hey, we have tutoring available. So when we refer to tutoring, we try to make it seem like it is a choice, right? We can't make them go to an after school, but it's presented as if they really need to go, because they do.
Are most students then attending?
Not always. We have to chase them.
Okay.
And that's kind of my point. I think that at the high school level, it's a little harder to get them to participate in those. So if we could catch them early, and especially in elementary, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess my question, it's kind of a comment question, but you mentioned that the teachers at the elementary level are going to be running small groups to talk about resources for other professional development is that correct assessment?
So not small. What we generally do as we start to plan our professional development and what curriculum we need, those conversations happen in grade level team, they happen in the leadership team. And so that's where that will happen. And so Erica and Jeff will be engaging the grade level leads and then having conversations in leadership team and then staff meeting of, okay, where are we at? What are we feeling good about? What do we need?
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that the teachers were really having a voice in whatever's kind of coming next once we're back in person. And that, just because the program has changed at the elementary level so much over the last couple of years, and the teachers may have new insights about what worked well with the smaller class size and everything this year.
Yeah.
And I would love to just be sure that they have a really active voice in whatever's next, including how it fits in with schedules and, whether they have enough resources, period, to do the best job that they possibly can. And that this isn't something that is just kind of on their plate along with everything else that they're supposed to manage under the one classroom roof. And so anyway, I just would hope that those suggestions and assessments would kind of rise all the way up to the resource allocation and so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could make a brief comment, and I had a long comment, but I'll try and keep it brief. I keep seeing on 1, 2, 3 slides this word PD, or these initials PD, and I want to thank you. I think you know that I like professional development, and I like the audible you called when Kinsella said it ain't going to work. So you switched, and then you continued and you continued. I'm counting. I think there's 11, 12 bullets there regarding PD, all about, and to Trustee McAllister's point, the teachers were involved in selecting. We want to take this. We want to do this. So I thank you. I thank the teachers. And I also thank, you talked about a big takeaway, more personalized. Well, yeah, less tech, yeah. But the monitoring that you're doing, and to President Roma Flores's point, to make sure that we are I guess, monitoring it. I'm not taking data on what we're doing so we can look at that and say, well, we're doing this really well. We need to improve in this area, and let's get on it. And now you know you're on it, Erin. I know you're the leader on this. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And, you know, you said this, and I'll just echo it, of with all that's going on, the technology lift that we've had to do, particularly at the elementary, right? Getting kindergarten, first graders up, both as teachers and students, and just the lift that's had to happen to do school online, and for them to continue to engage in professional development that's about teaching and learning and not just technology or making it through the day. So that we haven't had to just completely put everything on hold is a testament to the commitment of our teachers for all students, that they haven't just said, nope, we're not, no, like, no, stop. So thank you to the teachers, and, you know, we'll continue to set it up and listen to them, and push too, right? Just like with our kids, right? Our jobs are sometimes to push and support. Any other comments or questions? All right. If you think about anything, I know that was a whirlwind. There's a lot of information in there. I'm always happy to take a phone call or chat with you if you have any follow-up, anything that comes to mind. Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Erin.
Yeah.
And teachers, thank you for all your work. It was wonderful to see all those reclassified students. And I just want to commend you for doing the optional LPAC to give our students that opportunity to demonstrate that they are proficient. We didn't have to do that, so thank you for doing it.
Yeah, you know, one thing I should have put this in there, and this is just normally, you know, we'd honor the students and their families at the board meeting. And I can send this information in the letters that we sent to you. So in the fall, when we knew we couldn't do that, I reached out to our librarians and I said, you know, we need to do something. I'd like to maybe send them a book celebrating their bilingualism and celebrating their superpower of RFAPing. And so the librarians helped me curate a list. And so we sent out a Google form and a congratulatory letter to all the families and said, we'd like to send you a book of your choice. And so all the families got a congratulatory letter, the certificate signed by Superintendent Vandenheuvel and myself, and then a book that celebrates. So I'll send that letter and the books that we sent to our kids and their families celebrating their superpower of being bilingual.
Awesome.
Thank you for doing that. I was going to say, I really miss having that at the board meeting and having them all lined up and celebrating their bilingualism. And so thank you for doing that and reinforcing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. Moving on to reports. Do we have a HEF report tonight?
I didn't see anybody from HEF on.
Okay, thank you, Chris. HADA report?
Hi, I'm here. It's
Hi, Robin.
best if I keep my screen off. Hi, it's best if I keep my screen off because otherwise you won't be able to hear me. So
Okay, that's fine, Erin.
here I go.
I mean, Erin,
All right,
Robin.
HADA and the, it's okay. HADA and the district have been working collaboratively, and we have come to many tentative agreements and are very close to finishing. The changes that come from the governor or come from Sonoma County Health has sent us back to the drawing table too many times to redo sections again and again. We are a dedicated team that has been working beyond the regular workday, and our focus has been to keep the students, the teachers, and the community safe. It's been a daunting task, and it's actually scary to think that lives and futures are in our hands. So we are working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Do we have a CSEA report? No? Okay. Student report, student trustee report. Bikram.
Hello. So I talked to kids around or at the high school, different grades, different like situations, and I asked like how they felt about the new schedule. And for the most part, the majority liked it a lot better than the old one, because with the old one, it was kind of tough to keep yourself motivated when you'd go on and off from the day. And like now that there's more of a structure where you get all the classes done and then you can take a little break and then do homework, it's kind of like, it's more like we're in person than it was before. However, even though this is much better, in my opinion, than the other schedule, there are some flaws. It's difficult in certain classes, such as especially in AP classes, to get to learn the material in 50 minutes. Like it's really difficult to try to fit in a full day's AP class lesson in 50 minutes. And there is office hours, but at least for me personally, it's a little difficult to do that because I also have work after school. So sometimes I'm not able to make it. So I would say that the new schedule is a lot better than it was before. And at least for me, it makes my schooling life easier. But I would say if there was one thing, it's that it's difficult to fit in certain it's difficult to fit in all materials in certain classes. And that's all I got because COVID, there's not much going on.
Yeah,
Hey,
thank
Vic,
you.
I don't know if you heard we're working on getting conditioning restarted for sports.
Yes.
And there is a good possibility that we will have some sports return to actually have seasons. That's coming out shortly, but tennis is one of them that looks pretty promising. It can happen in purple. So I know that's near and dear to you. So
that definitely, that's awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Vikram. Board of Trustees, any reports? No. Okay, so do we want to take a 5-minute break?
Okay. So back at 8:20-ish, just a little after 8:20, 8:21, 8:22.
Sure, 8:21 sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. thank you, everyone. So we are moving on to 12.2, student learning, equity, and school culture, continued. Marcy Becerra Academy Plan for Student Achievement. This is a discussion item.
Yeah, so this is just a first read of the Marcy Becerra single plan. Bill Halliday will talk about it briefly.
Thank you, Kristen. So just briefly, and once again, the entire SPSA is in your board packets, and you have access to the document tracking system. Just want to talk briefly, once again, with great encouragement, that one of the highlights of this difficult year has been the growth of Marcy Becerra Academy. Our goals and our strategies, again, are changing and based on the big picture learning model. But we're still focusing with our goals on the primary causal or recovering from the causal factors that lead students to be credit deficient and not being active members of the school community. So our first goal is obviously to increase our graduation rate. We receive all of our students at Marcy who are credit deficient, and the primary goal is to accelerate their credit recovery so they can earn their high school diploma. The strategies with the BPL model, of course, are different and more student interest driven, and including externships and internships and other credit earning models. But we're still going to be integrating technology for credit recovery, and we're actually going to have still continue to have class time to focus on individual credit recovery. The second goal is increase individual student attendance rates by 15%. I'm pleased to announce that I think we're going to shatter this mark this year. Our overall attendance rate at Marcy Becerra so far this year is actually higher than our overall attendance rate at Healdsburg High School, which that may be the first time that's happened.
That's insane.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's great. That's great news. And just, I know it's late and I don't want to go too long, but one of the strategies is really building a community within a program so the students feel like they're viable parts, that they feel like they have mentors that speak to them, and they also feel like that there's good communication loops. And we've really increased our amount of outreach to the families and communication with the families, and again, increasing that sense of student connectedness. And then our goal 3 is just to increase the kind of outreach to our parent community and increase that sense of connectivity to our school. We're taking some different strategies this year. Marcy Becerra Academy, for example, has never had its own unique school site council. We're in the process of creating a school site council, which will have community members, parents, paraprofessionals, teachers. I think I said students already. We're going to increase the presence on our district webpage. So Marcy has some standalone recognition for its achievements and its program. We are bringing in outside mentors to work with the students and also outreach for the family. And we're increasing our kind of community connectiveness with current mentors and also current support strategies with different programs, counseling and otherwise to support our students. And that, again, that's just really briefly our 3 goals and some of our strategies.
Any comments or questions?
I hate to continue to be positive, but it looks good. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your support. And again, once again, thank you for your early interest in this transition to the big picture model and your school visits and your support from the very beginning. Very much appreciated. Means a lot.
And if it pleases the board, we'll bring this back on consent for approval next time.
Works for me.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, we have a resolution number 21-11, National School Counseling Week. This is an action item.
Yeah, I'll start, and Bill, if you want to jump in. We are in our yearly recognition time for our counselors, and we've kind of already paved way here in the meeting to talk about the incredible work they're doing. I can tell you, I see there's oftentimes I'm here late and it's dark, and seldom do I see other people around, and more often than not, I'm starting to see the counselors around. And I've dropped in on them several times to have conversations, and they're on Zoom. They are working incredibly hard during the pandemic. Not that they don't always, but it's hard to reach kids now and to engage them, especially the ones who need the interventions most. And they're working in overtime to do so. I'm incredibly grateful for them. I can say, both professionally and personally, I had my own son who was struggling this year, and Miss Mace did a fantastic job of reaching out and motivating him and pulling him out of this hole of pandemic depression that he was stuck in. And so incredibly grateful for the work they do. And especially this year, actually since March, how they've engaged in it and their leadership in terms of bringing us, the need for making graduation waivers, et cetera. So they are doing an incredible job, and we're very grateful. Bill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just want to say, never is a time that you need leadership to focus on empathy and equity right now. And I think our counselors, and with my positive experiences with Bethany at the junior high, I think she exemplifies that also, that our counselors have really stepped up in this difficult time to provide a sense of kind of heartfelt leadership in reaching out to our kids and our families. And I'm just very proud of them. And it's very nice that we do this annual recognition. I hope they're resting. They were here earlier, but they've heard our positive comments throughout this school year.
So this is a resolution, so it does need a roll call vote.
First, we need a motion. I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
This is a roll call vote.
All right. Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Trustee Patmaso.
Aye.
President Romo Flores.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Student Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was just Mr. Vanden Heuvel closing the door.
Yeah, we're getting a little echoey. You could probably hear the feedback. So,
All right, moving on to 12.3 school business. Change order number 001 for the Hillsbrook High School new gym and locker room project. This is also an action item.
typically we get nervous when we see change order on the agenda because it usually means we added cost. And that's happily not the case here. So I'll let Debbie take it away.
This is a change order. The backup for it is in the packet and it shows all the different items that are included here. But the main thing why we saved so much money was the money that we put aside for anything that could go wrong, dry rot, DSA. A lot of those things didn't happen. So that's why the credit's so high for the project. So it's nice to have a credit at the end of a project.
Yeah, we like these orders.
It's nice that nothing went wrong on the project. Like, when that never happens.
No. Well, there was a few additions if you go through it.
Additions, yeah.
Outweigh the charges by quite a bit.
Yeah, it's great.
So this, I need approval for this.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second. Oh, sorry.
All right, second by Rose. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 12.3B, notice of completion for the Hillsbrook High School new gym and locker room project. This is also an action item.
So this is for the notice of completion. They've gone through the punch list and all the items have been checked off. Then this starts the 35-day period for claims and liens, and we start releasing the retention that we've been holding. And it was filed on December 15th. And I think most of the trustees have gotten a chance to go through the gym and see it. It's
beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Very well done.
So Director Adetto, you're telling us that the project is done?
It is.
All right, then I'll move that for the approval of notice of completion.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And we're actually, just so you know, very close to finished on the junior high in the next few months.
Oh, whoopee.
Finished up ahead of schedule. So we'll get a time on the books where you guys, we can take you in pairs and walk you through to check it out. So,
That would be great. Thanks, Chris.
I really like the additions of the lights outside. I jogged through that area in the evening and it looks really nice.
Well, and they kept a lot of the original just architectural things, which it just is so cool. And who knew that those walls are solid cement? Did you know that? That is poured cement from floor to ceiling.
Great.
4 walls. And so so they had to do a lot of sort of overlaying because you can't put wiring through that. But it's amazing. It's very cool. They did a great job.
great. Okay, Board of Trustee reports, comments, requests for information. So you have our request kind of, Chris, already for February, for mine anyway, mine and Mike's.
yeah.
So if I can make a quick comment, I hate to say this, well, I shouldn't say that. I am enjoying this board meeting. I'm looking at all the positive things that are going on, all the things that we're doing. I want to touch on what Director Fender said about it's a great lift. I mean, I'm going through Marcy Becerra, that's a great lift. The counselors, that's a big lift. The English language development program, that's a big lift. The high school graduation and making sure the kids are doing well, that's a big lift. I'm just going through the agenda. The Hillsburg district reopening, that's a big lift. I was thinking if all this lifting was here, we would be great bodybuilders. Unfortunately, it's physical, it's all mental. So I am so proud and so happy that our teachers, our administration, our support staff are really brains, and they have very strong brains. I truly mean this. This is good stuff. It's good to hear. Obviously, we have things to do, but I'm very proud to be part of the board.
Thank you.
Yes, bravo. Awesome. Okay, so do we need a recess to close session?
I think we're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, all right. Well, our next regular board meeting is Wednesday, February 17th. And deadline to submit agenda items is Monday, February 8th. And Wednesday, February 10th, all backup materials are due. And meeting is adjourned at 8:36 p.m. Thank you, everyone.